Welcome to the Didi and Lital Show. Advice, thoughts, and stories from a married couple on cybersecurity, technology, and life in general. Now here are your hosts, Didi and Lital.
Hello and welcome to the Didi and Lital Show. It's another week. What's up, Didi?
So let's start with let's talk about the elephant in the room. The Celtics. In case of course you don't know, but the Celtics, I think, are bound to the greatest loss since the 2007 Patriots. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong.
Fighting words. Well, yeah, I mean, expectations are high. They're the defending champs, and they didn't have as good a record as they did last year, but they have looked even tougher.
Yep.
And, players like Porzingis contributing more, and Pritchard emerged. So
the angry gerbil.
Hopes were high after the first game against Orlando. I said no one's beating this team.
Yep.
And I was wrong.
Yep. No, look, they blew two 20-point leads. It's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's like choke central.
I think you even woke me up the other night telling me that.
Yes,
I vaguely remember you saying it while I was asleep.
Yes. Your Tom keeps texting me and says, "Are you watching this?" And I said, "No, I'm watching the Panthers not winning against the Leafs, which I was expecting to choke." So the Panthers lost 2 against the Leafs, which is surprising because if I need to bet on a team to choke, that's the team that will choke, because there's even a verb for this, to leaf it away.
I thought you were going to say the maple laughs.
The maple laughs.
Yep.
Also true.
Yep.
That's for all my fans in Canada that listen to the podcast. But apparently the Celtics are leafing this away. There's no other way to call it.
I don't want to agree with that statement, but I feel the evidence is there.
The evidence is there.
It hurts.
Look,
but they do have this the best road record in the NBA. And maybe in a weird way, the pressure will be off because they can't go any lower at this point.
No, they can. If they lose today, I think it's done.
Yeah,
it's done.
Saturday, right?
Yeah,
whatever.
No, I'm looking. I always assume that they're playing against the Leafs and Panthers. Now I have no excuse but to watch them suck.
Yes. Okay, enough with sports radio.
Now let's talk about another suck, which is RSA Conference sucks. We're going to talk about the decline and fall. There's a very famous book called The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, followed by The Decline and Fall of the American Programmer, and now it's the decline and fall.
There was even the decline and fall of the Third Reich, or something like that, which is like 5 books or something. It's like masterpiece.
No, you're mistaken. The 5 masterpieces, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire.
Okay. Well,
The Decline and Fall of RSA Conference.
Let's start with the bottom line. You and I did not attend RSA Conference this year.
Yes.
And we decided that this is telling. If we haven't been there, it means that's it. It's dead.
It's dead. Well, it's dead to us.
So, yeah. So let's unpack it.
Yes.
Maybe I'll start with the end. I wrote, after RSA Conference, a LinkedIn post saying that the only way to save RSA is to actually get it out of the Moscone Center in San Francisco and get it somewhere else. It's about time it relocates. Everybody else did it. So my kind of 2 cents to the organizers, if you want to keep it going, and we'll get to the history of RSA Conference and why we loved it and the actually very tactical reasons we haven't been there this year. It's not that big deal. But the point is, I think it's about time that if this conference wants to continue the vibrant thing going on, people actually enjoying and not making it just the cash cow that keep on sucking money and not giving back, I would say it needs to get out of San Francisco, move somewhere else. My recommendation, check out Nashville, Texas, Atlanta, a place in Florida. Please don't move it to Vegas. No. Just move it to somewhere else and get a fresh start, I think people will be excited. It's time for a makeover in a new place. Bottom line. Okay, Didi. Now let's do the rewind.
Yes. No, so first, I completely disagree with you about
like everything in life.
Like the relocation. So, post October 7th, Lital hates everything lefty. Which
no, that's not true. It has nothing to do.
Look, San Francisco is a dump.
Yeah,
but there's two places.
Since COVID, it's even worse. It has nothing to do with October 7th. Why are you bringing topics up? So it's not politics. It's not that the place is expensive.
No, it's a dump.
And is a dump. It's the most expensive place still, and it's horrible. And you cannot get an Uber ride, and you cannot get anything, and the place is just miserably empty.
Well, the thing is that San Francisco and Vegas are the two places that can host a conference that size. Maybe San Diego. These are the three places in the U.S. So all the places that you mentioned can't host.
That's not true. Orlando has multiple places that you can
I don't think
be in. Huge conferences.
20,000 people and above, I think, is primarily Vegas.
I have no idea.
So that's the logistics.
Nashville has some new places for conferences, so somebody can check it out. I think people in the post said Nashville. So definitely Nashville.
I don't think it's the venue. I think the primary thing, so that the real problem, and I'll unpack this from the dawn of time till now.
You love giving the history, so let's do history.
But the problem right now is that you can't, the two topics that were the big draw for me were the level of expertise, basically having the best experts in the world talk about the topic and have some of the best lectures in the world about the topic, decrypting stuff about the topic. So that is kind of fading away. And the second thing that is fading away is customers, real people that really used the products.
They don't come there.
Came to listen to talks from the vendors and listen to the vendors explain how to solve their problems. Okay. And I think if I roll it back, so I started going to RSA Conference in 2008. There's a picture of me and Ayelet, who was on this podcast a bazillion years ago, of us going to the conference. It was either 2008 or 2009, but that's kind of my first year at RSA.
2009 was probably not the first year of your RSA, but if it is, we know the outcome.
Yes.
We live with it.
Yes, we live with that. We are suffering from that outcome. Omri. Every day, especially now that he's a teenage dirtbag. He's like really a teenage dirtbag.
Okay, back to the topic.
Back to the topic. I went to the conference. And it could be that it was the shine. It
was already not owned by RSA.
It was already not owned by RSA.
They already kind of spun it off.
Yeah, but I went with my buddy Larry and a few others from the high level.
But RSA still had like the keynote, and you were working at RSA.
I was working at RSA.
RSA was like
Chris Young, who was then at RSA, gave the keynote. And if anybody has not heard Chris Young deliver a keynote, please do. He's probably one of the best speakers I've ever heard in the security space. So it was really good. Both Art and Chris were talking about relevant topics, not pushing topics that they were predicting at that point in time the concept that we were talking about even at greater length at the following RSA conference, which is nation state attacks, and the fact that at that point in time, when we were talking about security, we were talking about the fact that there were two things that were security: tokens and firewalls. And we needed more security. We needed EDR. We basically foresaw the birth of EDR. We foresaw the birth of the revitalization of the SIM. SIMs at that point in time, tools like ArcSight, all they did was keep logs for compliance, backward compatibility. Basically, after the horses have already left the barn months and months ago, now you can investigate. So that was the ArcSight and Envision and the Nitros of the world. They were not what Splunk gave to the world. They were not what some of the newer tools gave to the world. Not what NetWitness gave to the world. So at that point in time, security went from basically very boring space to being one of the most
Interesting places
to be
in the news.
And the conference
breaches became famous. Yes. It became a thing.
And the conference exemplified that. People came to listen to talks about these things, about the cutting edge talks. So if Black Hat was kind of the angry teenager, unwashed teenager,
talking about the tools themselves, the techniques,
it was
specificities.
Exactly.
Getting into the weeds of things.
RSA basically gave people
the big picture.
Overall
strategy.
The pointer into where the industry is going.
Yeah. Was the general way when Black Hat is like specific in the weeds, techniques, learn.
And Black Hat was very, 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 very focused on basically Black Hat was CrowdStrike. It was pointing, everything is the endpoint. Endpoint is everything, and endpoint is...
I disagree, but that's fine. I mean, it's more like, it is like conference to CISOs, leaders, that's RSA, versus the practitioners, the pen testers, the guys that like tweak the machines, and also the adversaries.
Yes.
So that's the difference. Practitioners versus leadership, kind of two different messaging. And
now we're going to talk 5 years later. I reload, I moved, I did whatever. 2014 was when I was getting the sense of the problem. We went with back then Lockhart, then and now a Cisco Defense Orchestrator. We went and I was demoing my product as usual. So this is a common joke that Matt always talks about, and Aaron likes to joke, is that Didi sits in the lobby and demos, basically grabs a whole bunch of people and demos the product to them live in unexpected places. And I've kept doing this, whatever product I had that I brought to RSA. But I noticed something very interesting. In 2014, 2015, I was primarily talking to coworkers, to peers from other companies. I already noticed that
a vendor show.
It became a trade show.
Like the cars presenting the latest and greatest models and
to each other.
Yeah, how many, actual buyers don't show up on the floor.
Or arm dealers, or like...
Yeah, because RSA became, I think, in the last decade and towards the last 5 years, more and more, less of a conference for buyers and more of a conference for vendors and then resellers, MSSPs, the whole kind of ecosystem of selling. We kind of like show our merchandise, compete with each other. VCs come in. It's all about, the innovation sandbox, the new guys, who's raising funds. It's for us to get together, but it's less and less for the actual buyers to come, learn, get the vision. Because if you see, and I will post this in the show notes, and I'll have a LinkedIn post about it. RSA released to the vendors sponsoring the real data of how many, full expo ticket holders, which is basically vendors versus students versus actual people buying, and what's the percentage. It's shocking. It's like 1 to 40. And also, even that, a full ticket buyer is typically, how many like full passes Cisco employees get? Like your CISO, your product leaders, your blah, blah,
My
blah.
engineers.
Hundreds, right?
I don't know, but
So there are a few thousands.
most of the people that went were from my side that went with full ticket passes were my engineers.
Yeah. So they're not going to buy anything. So
No.
for us in the marketing side, I'll kind of like mirror what you're saying. In the past, it was a wonderful place for vendors to come talk with leadership of customers, the CISOs, the VP security, learn about their problems, but also kind of like bring what our vision is, get feedback. And so this still happens in a way. Some people, especially locals in the West Coast, do show up, and mostly they don't go to the expo, they don't go to talks, but they walk around and meet with the vendors. Like they will go to the suite of the vendor, or if the vendor have an offsite with, CISO gathering, and so people will go to it. Mm-hmm. They don't pay for the passes. They're not actually there for the show. So for us marketeers that have to pay the tax of buying a booth, manning the booth, and the whole cost. Actually, the booth at RSA, I do want to say, is relatively cost effective compared to Black Hat and, oh my God, Gartner. The cost is not that high, but it just the base, like getting the 10 by 10 booth, 10 by 20, 20 by 20, or whatever size, is just a start, because then you need to put the booth, get lead scanners. Can't believe it costs money these days. Like it's an app. Like we can pay, a subscription to whatever scanning app. It's unbelievable that they force us to get lead scanners. This is ridiculous. So hundreds of dollars for lead scanners.
Why do you need lead scanners?
Because you want to have a follow-up with the people that you meet with. If you have hundreds of people,
why waste time? What I do,
you can open the LinkedIn, because that's another conversation that we can have about all this traditional way the entire marketing and sales orchestration works. That we have tools in which you download all the leads and upload them to your Salesforce and automate follow-up and have SDR call them and whatever. Yeah, I mean, this could be gone, actually, and we can rethink it, because it's kind of the model of how this works, because it's all about big numbers. You scanned 1,000 people because you gave them a T-shirt, and out of them, you showed 50 demos, and out of them, 10 will become actual opportunities of people that...
So for me, it's a waste of time. I connect with LinkedIn and follow up the way I want to follow up. So
yeah, but you're not in marketing and sales, so you are not accountable for those numbers
when I was the CTO of a startup, I was sales. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe, I believe in direct connection, because if people are willing to connect with you for real, and it eliminates the biggest noise out of a lot of these systems, which is all the other vendors coming to your booth. One of the tests,
the students that come for the T-shirt, or even customers that all they want this gimmicky stuff to bring to the kids.
So this is also an important thing to remember, which is buying agenda. So you mentioned Gartner. One of the things I love about the Gartner and Identiverse is both of them have people that have buying agendas. So one of my favorite movies of all times is called Mallrats. It's a young Ben Affleck, amazing Shannon Dorothy, Kevin Smith being an asshole and being an idiot together with Jason Mewes. Very, very, very... Jason Lee, one of the best performances Jason Lee ever gave. So very, very good movie. Ben Affleck wants to basically beat the shit out of Jason Lee because he says, you come here to the mall to waste our times. You have no buying agenda. All you do is walk around and waste our times. And that is how I feel about RSA.
It's mall rat.
It's the
People like going to drink.
It's the 90s malls. All we are missing is Tiffany singing, I think we're alone now. This is the only thing we're missing.
Well, you have all kinds of weird stuff in the booth. I heard that there was one booth this year with goats that you could pet.
This is a big thing now. This is because you stop being a lefty. There's a whole bunch of what is called soft experience. There's like
a
petting
few
the
years
dogs.
ago, you
Like,
already have petting. Yeah, it's a petting zoo coming
the support
to
animals.
support animals.
That's because you stopped being a lefty. It's a big thing now. When you come back to
again, you can be whatever politically and enjoy hugging a pet. I just don't think goats are pets.
This is the thing I like about being on the right. When we meet a goat, we eat a goat. Goats are not meant for petting; they're meant for eating.
Simba is meant for petting.
Yes, exactly. A killer.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think we're alone now. And by the way, the best.
So you're saying we invest in building a mall, and we all know that malls are dead.
Exactly. And by the way, if you want the best in the mall, make fun of the mall. And this is something we may ask Dave to put at the tail end. In How I Met Your Mom, there's Robin Scherbatsky does her Canadian version of Tiffany in the mall.
In the mall.
In the mall.
That's what she was. She was the singer in the malls in Canada 10 years after the trend in the US was gone, because in Canada, fashion comes 10 years later. That's what she explains. Back to the point, it's funny because if you think about it, Wiz booth always has the theme of a retail or something. Like they had, I think, a few years ago, maybe last year, I don't remember.
Yes.
Like the place looks like a supermarket and stuff. So they get it.
Yeah. Because they're Israeli and they have a sense of humor. They understand that this is the mall. Basically, But
it's a mall that nobody buys in.
But it's exactly
because people buy online today. It's the same thing.
It's exactly the same, because all you do is go to the mall to meet up with your friends, get free food, and do stuff like that. So basically,
and if anything, you get a demo and maybe
liberty.
So the thing is, I think so. Okay.
Robin sparkles.
So let's go back for a second. Okay. 80s. I feel like we're going to bring Tiffany to next year's booth.
Yes.
I mean, I still want to say my company sponsored RSA, and we will sponsor it next year.
Yes.
It's just, I'll tell you the truth why I didn't go before we go into the content.
Because you don't like going to the mall either.
No, I came back from, and we'll have an episode about it, from a college trip to Tel Aviv. And actually, I'm going back a month from now with the other kid to have his college trip in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
So we're going to do...
like me.
We'll do a full college trips, the Didi and Lital learnings about colleges, Israel versus US. But I realized I'm coming back from Israel and then immediately going to RSA, meaning I'll need to suffer 10 hours of jet lag if I do so, which I'm super bad in recovering from jet lag. And yes, to all our friends, Israelis in cybersecurity, I hear you, I feel you, I know you have this problem that you are traveling to Silicon Valley and to talk with your VCs, or to go to RSA, or to go to Black Hat and have to suffer through the 10 hours. I just trying to avoid it whenever possible. So
it's 17
I'm
hours.
lucky enough to have a great team that like could go and do it.
17 hours, not 10. 17.
No, the 10 hours jet lag, not the flight. Yeah, the direct flight.
Okay.
I don't think it's 7. I think it's
17.
a 14 hours flight, but it's a horrible.
Yes.
I did it twice.
Horrible.
I took the flight from San Fran to Tel Aviv direct. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Anyways, back to my history of the conference. So 2014, discovered that I'm going to the mall. Back then, I liked going to the mall. I think I matured out of going to the mall. At Ort was the first time, and I think at the tail end of my second stint, at Cisco, I kind of stopped going. The only reason I went was
I think you went last year.
No, I meant
we had an episode about
no,
that.
no. Look, I'm talking about at the tail end of my first stint at Cisco.
Yeah.
2020. If you remember, we didn't go to the 2020 RSA conference.
Well, that was the year before COVID.
That was a
sick.
COVID year, and I predicted that COVID's going to be a shit show. And
you said we shouldn't go.
And I said we should go to the Club Med and have one last hurrah before we went to Club Med in Sandpiper Bay in Florida.
Yeah, that was in February break.
That was awesome.
Before.
Best decision ever, skipping RSA. But I already knew that RSA was declining, and I couldn't justify to myself the boondoggle. It's basically a boondoggle. I go to meet up with all my RSA friends. We go together. We drink.
It's like a frat gathering.
It's a frat gathering. So when ORT started and conferences came back, we did go to RSA conference, Matt and I, but we didn't go to present. We didn't get a booth.
You just sat at the lobby of the W or the marquee?
I sat at exactly in the W, in the marquee.
To meet with a bunch of VCs.
And went through the booth to talk to see where the competitors are. And as Matt jokingly says, going with Didi to RSA Conference is a social experience. He says that you can't walk more than 10 feet before somebody stops you and says, hey, let's talk. So I met up with the VCs. I met up with the vendors.
So maybe there is value to that. The actual gathering, again, I think there's another thing that if the conference evolves from, that's the thing, somebody needs to pay the bill. But so it's like now, I mean, they're not telling us the reality. Yep. The reality is it's a gathering of vendors and the VCs. Ecosystem around vendors and, the resellers, the partners, the channel, the whatever.
Yep.
And there is a little bit of customers coming. And this basically, the marketing, the whole thing is an excuse to have this gathering, which I feel is the problem. Like RSA has become a vendor gathering, show off, information sharing, getting your marketplace to the resellers and getting some VCs attention. Maybe it's all worthwhile, but actual meeting with customers is very small. It happens if you are a very large vendor. Very hard to compete because there are so few customers. All of us vendors are competing against each other. There are thousands of vendors over there. So that's where the reality of the kind of the part that sponsor the whole party going on, not getting its ROI, and then not having transparency of what the thing actually is. It's a biz dev show. It's a celebration for everyone in biz dev and everyone like getting stuff. It is not a selling motion conference anymore.
Yeah. It's not a selling motion. And that's the thing that I wanted to mention at the tail end. So at the tail end of my career at going to RSA, both of Cisco again and the tail end of ORT was a lot of VC conversations. Both and the Cisco venture has a good presence there. We met with a lot of companies when I was from the Cisco side. Vendors do come, basically a lot of the startups come to you. So if you're a VC, I don't know if you want a booth because you don't, but sitting outside kind of makes sense. But
I mean, VCs have a lot of breakfast events. They have their own events to draw people.
But on the flip side, it also has to deal with the decline and fall of Boston as a VC. So the two big VC cities in the U.S. used to be San Francisco and Boston. And I think
New York?
No. Primarily Boston, and because if you think Bain came from here, CRV, Charles River Ventures, It's here.
Yeah.
OpenView was here. A lot of them were here, and now they split into two offices, there and here. And then they decided kind of here is dead, and they moved there. So going to San Francisco to meet your VCs, that's very valuable.
Yep.
But should you spend time on a booth and other things? I don't know.
So I think that's my kind of message to marketeers out there. And actually, that's the evolution I took with the companies I was with. I reduced the spend on big glossy booths over the years. And this year we went with, the smallest possible footprint. That's good ROI. We did have people that scheduled demo with us. We had customers that came to talk to us, but we didn't have to, fit a huge booth, send, tens of personnel out there, which is expensive. So basically have the minimal footprint that is good for you. People have this FOMO, I need to show how big I am. I mean, if you're a whiz and you were just acquired by Google, that's fine. Don't think about ROI. But for most of us, especially startups, do think about ROI. If you can get the innovation, small booth, go for that. You don't need to show off. Just do the minimal thing to show you're still there, to check the box. And, if you get a few opportunities out of that, that's basically justifying the cost of the booth. And everything else, treat it as your business development opportunities. Like that's definitely the time to meet with the vendors you're collaborating with. That's the time to, even the problem is even getting on the Optives and the GuidePoint and CDW's time in that conference is impossible because they are there to meet with so many people. So that's tough anyhow. But yeah, treat it as channel, partner, biz dev, CEO meeting with your VCs. And if you do have customers in the Bay Area, an opportunity to meet with them, for me, that's the right way to go. I still would say, if you move to another place, maybe it will attract more customers. Who knows? So
for me,
people have this thing of nowadays of I'm not going to San Fran.
That I don't know. I'm back to my last point of the conference. At the tail end of my time, the customers that I met were 10 levels above the working man or the working lady. So most of the time I met with the execs of the execs of the execs.
Yeah, the CISO that doesn't even deal with the tech.
Not even the CISO. Think of this as like the CISO's boss or some person that deals with security that is an EVP in a big company.
Okay.
I can understand what their concerns are, but that's my boss's job. Like Tom should listen to these people, should shake their hand, should have conversations with them. I don't know if it values Jason to meet with some of these people, mainly because most of these people cannot make a decision. Because this is very funny. Most of the time we think that the EVP makes any decisions. No, they don't. It's like the invisible hand in the Supreme Court. It's the interns that write the rulings. So it's very much the same way here.
Yeah.
The people that actually make... I had the conversation about this with several CEOs of VCs. They said, we had this great meeting with this CISO. And I said, yeah, but he doesn't buy the tool. The person that actually installs the tool is the person that makes the decision.
Yep.
You need to talk to the person with the hands-on keyboard.
You need both.
You need both. Well, the person at the top will kill the deal, but they will not fight their team.
No, nobody will fight their team.
The only reason that they will fight their team
if they're getting whiz stocks.
No, it's the only reason that yes, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. But the reality is that they will fight their team for Microsoft or Cisco because they get cost benefits. If I get cost benefits that I get my switches, my routers, my firewalls, my AD defends my
So
endpoint.
you will say no even when the team comes and give you a point solution that is better. You will say no, we have an umbrella agreement with Cisco and we're just going with that.
Or we're going with the P2 license. Look, I understand that you guys want, but is this 10x more valuable?
Right.
You know,
for us to kind of put a point solution.
Exactly. The budget is tight. The support is a problem. Do you mean to deal with the startup when support is not happening?
Right.
And
when it gets acquired or whatever.
Exactly. So this is kind of where it makes sense for, but again, that's the level of my boss's boss to have a conversation, or my boss's boss's boss to have a conversation.
So that's why it's needed, but it will not get your contract signed and
Exactly.
like the discussion going.
Yes.
Okay. I think, we've said it.
Yes.
We may reconsider attending RSA. Decision will be out next year again.
I'll probably attend if I'll have an interesting lineup with the venture side, because that's the only thing that I find attractive.
Interesting. Awesome.
Cool.
Well, let us know what you think about RSA. If you've been there this year and enjoyed it, well...
Oh, one more thing. Even the cryptographers didn't attend. So from RSA, only Shamir attended, or at least he was the only one on stage. And from the Diffie-Hellman, only Diffie was there. And yes, there were a lot of people that meant something, but there's also an R and an A, and they didn't. And Shamir is very engaged with the VC community.
Okay.
So that's a point.
So if you have some ideas of how to improve RSA, please share them with us on social. Look at my post about RSA. Please comment. Love to get your thoughts. The Didi and Lital show is a weekly podcast. Please share us with your friends so that more people can enjoy those wonderful ideas that we have. Some people told us they love hearing us argue together.
Yes.
So we want more people to enjoy this fun. We will see you next week.
And
have a good time.
And go meet Robin Sparkles at the mall.
Let's go to the mall.
Let's go to the mall.
Bye.